Right, so I'm now recording this, and this recording will be put onto YouTube a little bit later this afternoon. And I'm going to share my screen and take you across to the talk that I will give, which is about installing Unicode fonts and keyboards on laptops, or on computers, and also on cell phones, or what I would call mobile phones. Okay, so I'm going to, hopefully all of you can hear me, and someone will send a message through to say that you can't hear if you can't hear. Okay, so as I said, the talk today is about installing fonts and installing keyboards. So I want to thank Craig Cornelius, who has been helping me a lot recently on things to do with various fonts, for helping me talk through some of this, but let's go through it. So first of all, we're going to talk about finding the fonts, the Unicode fonts, because it's only Unicode fonts that will be able to work on your phones. Other types of fonts can work on your laptop, but if you want to do things through Facebook or Messenger or sending text messages, you need to have Unicode fonts. And that's why we're working to get all of the scripts included on Unicode. Actually, tomorrow I'll be attending an international meeting to talk about 2 or 3 proposals connected with scripts of Northeast India, to talk about the inclusion of the Lakum Mosang Tangsa script in Unicode, to talk about some changes to the Thai home script to add some additional characters, and to talk about some technical changes so that the little dot forms of the Thai characters for Thai Phake, Thai Aituan, Thai Kamti, and Thai Kamyang can be observed. But today I want to talk about finding the fonts. I want to talk about installing them on your laptop. I want to talk about finding the keyboard and installing it on your laptop and on your mobile phone. One thing though, at this time on Android phones, which is what most of us are using, installing fonts is basically not possible. That might change in the future, but for now we have to use the fonts that have already been made. Okay, so in terms of finding the fonts, the ones that are going to work most effectively for the languages that I'm talking about today, which is the Thai Phake, Thai Aituan, Thai Kamyang, Thai Kamti, but also true of Thai Ahom, are the Noto fonts. And these can be downloaded from the link that I've given you there. So those of you who don't have time to write this down quickly, this talk will be uploaded to YouTube before long. And when it is, you can write down that connection. But if you just look up Noto fonts, you'll find them. You can download all the fonts, 1.1 gigabytes, so it'll take a bit of time. And if you do that, you'll be able to type, assuming you can find and install keyboards, in all the languages, many, many languages of the world. But if you only want to find the fonts that you want to use for writing Thai languages, then you can just search for Myanmar. So this is the front page of the Noto fonts. There is a link there that says download all fonts. That's if you want all of them. But if you only want the Noto Sans Myanmar and the Noto Serif Myanmar, then just type in Myanmar. Now, why are those fonts listed there? Well, that's because the Thai Phake, the Thai Aituan, Kamti, Kamyang are part of, similar to the Shan varieties, and at least with Kamti, probably half or so of the Kamti speakers are in Myanmar. So when the Unicode was put together, all of these fonts were put on the Myanmar part of the Unicode. So they're all together. Once you download Noto Sans Myanmar and Noto Serif Myanmar, 2 slightly different fonts, you can type in Thai Phake, Daiton, etc. But you can also type in Shan, you can type in Burmese, you can type in Mon, you can type in various Karen languages, and quite a few others. Daiahom is regarded as a completely separate script, so it has its own font. That's the reasoning behind that. Okay, once you've downloaded the fonts you want, you have to put them somewhere on your laptop. So I created a folder called Noto-Sans fonts, and actually this includes both the Noto-Sans and the Noto serif. So long as you know where it is, you can then select those fonts and double click on them and they will automatically install. It isn't a big issue installing fonts anymore. Used to be a lot harder, but not so much now. The keyboards, however, are a bit trickier. So Craig Cornelius has recently created a keyboard for the Taipake, Aiton, Kamti, and Kamyang that can be used on both laptop and on mobile phone. And I've tested this out, and Craig and I talked together a few days ago, might have been late, about a week ago, and got it working both on my computer and on my mobile phone. But first you have to download a program called Keyman. So Keyman is found at keyman.com. That's really easy to find. And then when you go onto the keyman.com website, you go to products and you select Keyman Desktop 13.0. You'll notice also there's a Keyman for Android. And if you can get that onto your Android phone this way, well and good. I'll show you another way of doing it later, which is the way that I know. And you'll see there that the Keyman the photo that is used by the Keyman program is a community, could be in India, somewhere in South Asia perhaps, who are looking at writing their language using this system. Okay, once you have downloaded the Keyman, you again have to put it somewhere on your laptop. So I put mine in a folder called Keyman. You all know, if you've got computers, that managing where everything is on those computers is challenging. I just don't put things straight onto the desktop, because if I do that, I can never find them again. And having done that, having put it somewhere where you can find it, you then double click that and install it. Okay, so what we've done so far is we have downloaded and installed the fonts, and we have onto the laptop, and we have downloaded and installed the Keyman program onto your laptop, but that's not the end of the story, because now we need the particular keyboard. So this is the keyboard that Craig Cornelius has created, and it uses essentially the same keystrokes as the old fonts for Daiton and Taipake that I made 25 years ago. So if you don't know what the keyboard position is, then you're going to need to get that information from me. But what I can tell you is that Ga comes on the letter K, Ka comes on the letter X, Nga comes on the letter G, the I vowel is on the little letter I, the E vowel on the long letter I, and so on. So again, you have to download that and save the file where you can find it. So I created a folder called Keyman Keyboards in Use. And this one is called phk.kmp. It may actually have a slightly different name from that, but no matter. And what you do then is, having clicked on that, it should link up with the Keyman and you just install it. Okay, because if the Keyman program is on your laptop, then when you double click on the Keyman keyboard, you can install it. You'll notice that I have 3 other Keyman keyboards. So one's for Ahom. This is one still in testing stage, and I think we need to do a little bit more work on it. But those of you who want to get it, I can tell you about that. One is for Wancho. This is a language spoken in Longding district of Arunachal, and the script created by Banwang Rosu. And the other one is hieroglyphics, because, you know, one of my hobbies is learning about the ancient Egyptian language. So I can type in all of those once I have installed them. Okay, now once you've got it installed, you will see the whole range of keyboards showing up on the right-hand side of your computer. Now, if we go, basically there's a little symbol on the right-hand side of the computer that you can't now see, that if we're using an English keyboard would say EMG. I should have actually made a screenshot that included that so that you could see it. But what I have now done is to select Phake. Now, for some reason, unknown to me, the version of Microsoft Word or the version of Windows that I have has decided that this script is English and comes from Austria, not Australia, which is where I live. But that's not what matters. What matters is the Phake here. And having selected that, if I go back to my computer and have the Noto serif or Noto Sans Myanmar font selected, when I type, Thai Phake will come. However, if you leave it on the Phake keyboard, then you will get Thai Phake everywhere. So if you only want to type a little bit of Thai Phake, or this will work the same for Thai Ai Tuan and basically for Kamti and Kamyang as well, and for old Trung manuscripts which are in the Thai language, you could use this. If you keep it selected on in that language preferences selection, then of course you will stay typing. So you need to change it back to one of the English keyboards. Now you see I have a number of different keyboards here because I have the keyboards that I had made earlier using the Microsoft Keyboard Layout Creator, and they're okay as well, but they won't work on the mobile phone, which is why switching to Keyman might be the best way to go. Okay, and now you can type Thai Phake in your laptop. And I was able to type this, I will go and visit Thai country. This particular keyboard actually has installed in it the forms with the little dots. Some of you would have attended my talk about fonts and things a couple of weeks ago. And those little dots are there. The keyboard has done its job. The font is really very lovely, but it does not include the dots. And the reason why the dots don't come out, for those of you who know this language really well, is that my version of PowerPoint doesn't implement them. So one of the issues that we face at the moment is that all of the different programs like PowerPoint, like Facebook, like Microsoft Word are not yet at the point where they implement these fonts. But the keyboard is doing the right thing. I know this because if I copy that piece of text into a program that is implementing the fonts, and LibreOffice is the most reliable of those, they will show up with the dots. But I don't have a slide demonstrating that, and I probably should have, but I can't put one in now. Okay, now to the mobile phone. This is the bit that's a little bit more tricky. So if your mobile's relatively recent and you keep it updated, then it will already have the Noto Sans fonts for Myanmar on it. It's currently difficult to install fonts on Android phones. It is apparently possible to install fonts on iPhones, but at least the last time I asked, most people in India had Android phones. So it might have the font there already, but it won't have the keyboard. And without the keyboard, you can't use the font at all. So this is what we have to do. So the first thing we have to do is to install Keyman. So I did that through what is called the Play Store. And you will all know, if you know how to work mobile phones, how to get a new app, right? So I installed Keyman. And in fact, when I took this screenshot, it was already installed. So I couldn't give you the screenshot of what Play Store would do if I hadn't installed it, but there would be a little sign up the top saying install. Okay, so you need to make sure that the keyboard is already downloaded onto your phone somewhere to do this. So you can find that keyboard link that I gave you earlier and get it onto the downloads in your phone, or you can copy it onto the downloads folder of your phone some other way. The way I did it was to download it directly, but I could also have connected up the mobile phone to my laptop and copied it into the downloads folder that way. That's something that's a little bit tricky to do, but many of you will know how to do it. And if someone's having difficulties with this, you can always ask me. And the next stage is to install the keyboard. Right, so over on the left-hand side is the screen that has the two most recently installed apps on my phone, which is Keyman and Google Meet. Okay, so I would double click on Keyman. When I double click on Keyman, I get the picture that you can see in the middle. That's a screenshot of the Keyman, the basic Keyman form on your mobile phone. And then I went to this little blue circle up on the top right-hand corner and clicked on it, and we get a menu that includes settings. So you go to settings. Having gone to settings, you will see something that says add keyboard from device. So you click on that and then you find it. So you could add it from images, videos, audios, recent or downloads, and downloads was where I had put it. Okay, so when I then got to downloads, you will see that the most recent version of the Phake Keyboard, which is PHK v1.06kmp, was there, and I double clicked that to download it. And while I was taking this shot, for those of you who know him, I think I got a message from Wanglung Mosang right down the bottom there. You can see the little Facebook message. Okay, that downloads the keyboard, but that's still not the end of the story. You then need to tick on Enable Keyman as a system-wide keyboard. And if you don't do that, then it still won't work. And you see that on my laptop, there were several virtual keyboards. So at the top, there's the Samsung keyboard, which is automatically enabled. There's also a Cree dictionary keyboard. I have never actually tried switching that on, but this is a language of North America, tribal language, that has its own script that was invented in the mid-19th century, I think. And it was invented by a person in that community who was the equivalent of Lakum Mosang, who has created the Tangsa script. And so it has been included in Unicode, and they have a dictionary. And to operate that dictionary properly, you need to switch on the keyboard, but I haven't done that. But I have switched on the Jahnabi keyboard that has been made for Ahom, and many of you who are members of the Thai Ahom community will already know how to use this. But if people would like to know more about the Jahnabi keyboard, I can also tell you a bit about that. But I need to switch on Keyman, you see? So right down here where my cursor is, you can see that I have shifted it across so that the Keyman keyboard is activated. So those are the preparatory stages, and now the keyboard can be made to work, but it won't work unless we, again in the settings, set it as the default keyboard, set Keyman as the default keyboard. So we've already told Keyman that the keyboard that we're interested in is Thai Phake. Now, if you have more than one keyboard in Keyman, you're going to have to do something else as well. But for the moment, I've only got one in Keyman. So I just click on Keyman. Now, once I've clicked on Keyman, I am now able to type on my mobile phone in Thai Phake language. Now, because my mobile phone isn't sufficiently updated, it is still not showing those little black dots. But I sent a message through WhatsApp to Gonseng in Dubroni village, Panamtum, just testing out whether she could read it, and she could. It didn't have the little black dots, but she could read it. And it didn't show up with the little black dots on her phone or mine because our phones are not sufficiently updated. But it will work for typing Thai language, even if it's not yet completely perfect. So what I'm recommending that people should do is start using these systems. And then over the next little while, as different phones, as different applications update, those little black dots will come into use. Okay, so once you've typed your message in Thai language on the phone, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Messenger, whether it's on WhatsApp or some other place, don't forget to switch it back to the Samsung keyboard at the end. Because if you don't do this, then your phone will stay in the Keyman keyboard for Thai Phake, and that's all you'll be able to type. Which would be good if you're only sending messages in Thai Phake or Thai Aiton or Thai Kamti or Thai Kamyang language, in Thai language basically. If you're only sending messages in that language to other people who read them, that's fine. But I always switch back to the Samsung keyboard at the end. Okay, so look, that's the end of my talk this afternoon about how you do this. I'm now going to unshare my screen. I'm also going to stop the recording because I've said everything that I need to say. And once I've stopped the recording, if anybody has any comments they want to make about this, you can, but I'm also going to stop the, but unfortunately I can't see, oh, there we go. Yes, I can see a couple of comments. So quite a few comments. So anyway, I will also put up the link to this recording on YouTube, maybe after half an hour or so. Thank you all.